It is time to get out of pocket. I'm your host, Michael Davis, and we are on the Boom Broadcasting YouTube channel. It's 5:30 when you're seeing this. There are a couple things that came up. I wasn't able to do a live show today, and so I am very, very thankful that our guest today moved around his schedule. We're able to do the Las Vegas Raiders. Pete Carroll and their new general manager are now in the building in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas, who knows? It depends whether they stay in Vegas or not. And then, of course, we're going to do something very special. If you guys have been watching Out of Pocket over the last several months, we've used Tuesdays for our top quarter rankings. It's where I ranked 8-1 with the NFL teams. And then we got the playoffs and we did various similarities to that. Today, we have a very special game in store for you. Have you ever wanted to go see an NBA player live and you would pay the big bucks for that? Well, there's two things. One, we're going to do a draft on must-see NBA players that I haven't seen, that Cody hasn't seen. We've seen different ones, so that's where the draft gets interesting. And then we'll give you guys a code towards the end of the video and in our description on how you guys can get a little discount if you guys want to go see one of your favorite NBA players. But as I mentioned, we talked about Brian Schottenheimer. We talked about Liam Cohen, their new head coaching gigs yesterday. But I wanted to say Pete Carroll, for the Raiders fan himself. He's from Drew Code Sports Talk. He's become a good friend of Boom Broadcasting, but also become a good personal friend of mine. Please welcome in Cody. And Cody outdressed me today. What is this?
Yeah, when you asked me to come on here and talk about Pete Carroll, I got to put my best fit on so that way we can talk about it, because this is a new day and it was a fun press conference, which I can't wait to talk about. But I'm honored that you invited me, Michael. So appreciate it, man. And I'm ready to get started.
I mean, you're even dressed better than Pete Carroll was for his own press conference.
He dressed like his age, I'll say that. So it was very, very fun. Whereas some people would be suited and booted. I mean, I've seen Brian Schottenheimer looked a lot better dressed than Pete Carroll on his press conference. Not as awkward, but, dressed better.
It doesn't matter. Now, you brought up the age. Pete Carroll has now become the oldest coach in the NFL at 73 years old. But everyone who's watched Pete Carroll and followed his career, age is really just a number for him. Like, he has so much energy and so much enthusiasm. And it honestly feels like he's 53 rather than 73. I've seen some people, question the age of Pete Carroll, but I want to bring up, like, Andy Reid is the second oldest head coach now that Pete Carroll is back with Vegas. Andy Reid's 66, and there's a 7-year gap right there. But you can see, like, guys like Andy Reid and the next oldest, John Harbaugh, Todd Bowles. These are Jim Harbaugh's even 60. Like, these are guys who, it doesn't really matter how old you are. It matters how efficient and effective you are. Cody, when you heard the news that Pete Carroll was going to be in Vegas, were you excited about his resume, or were you more, hesitant based on his age and how long it could take the Raiders organization to turn around?
Sure. So, of course, like, as being a Raiders fan, when news originally was kind of developing around, and I'll start it from back when Ben Johnson rumors were happening. And of course, obviously the day after, I think the Monday following their game, obviously he was hired to Chicago. So, of course, Raider Nation was kind of up in arms because we were tied to Ben Johnson, it seemed like, almost throughout the last couple of weeks. And then to hear Pete Carroll kind of bubbling through the reports, I think there was a little bit of, and in most cases for Raider Nation, some were probably like apprehensive of, like, this is not the future. He's too old. All the cliche things that probably are, rightfully so to be mentioned regarding Pete Carroll. Then there's the other side of Raider Nation that was excited because he has gone to pick the program where you want to judge him on and has been successful. His short stint in New England, he left there with an over 500 record. USC, obviously, left there with 7-time Pro Bowl champion. And then obviously you look at Seattle Seahawks, where he won them a Super Bowl, won them an NFC crown as well. So Pete Carroll, anywhere he goes, he instills values, he instills a culture, and he's a proven winner at any level of football. And I think what the Raiders need is they just need somebody who's going to come in who can keep up with the likes of Jim Harbaugh, with Andy Reid, with Sean Payton, which, by the way, the only coach now within our division that doesn't have a Super Bowl championship would be Jim Harbaugh. So now we're not the ones that are behind everybody else, so to speak. But I think what the excitement is around Raider Nation is this just doesn't feel like a flash in the pan hire. You can argue that with John Gruden, sure, was that an okay football move, but also was it to like steal headlines and create some sort of excitement for Raider Nation? Because everyone remembers what John Gruden was like before. Then you got AP, who was a fan hire. Let's just be honest about that, because once he had a very good interim tag, a lot of people thought that he'd do better. Obviously, he wasn't given too much of an opportunity to prove that. And then you look at like what Pete Carroll did, is going to do at least what we hope for, which is instill a culture, bring back kind of like football, and at least put us in a degree where we are a more respectable team than what we've been accustomed to, especially not only before AP, but when we had Josh McDaniels and when we started this Patriot way. And that kind of just set us back to where we are today. So the excitement is, it just feels like that this is not a Raiders move. It is a actually grown up move, if I can use that terminology correctly. So that's the excitement, at least I'm feeling for Vegas, and at least for majority of Raider Nation. There's that excitement too, to see like what they're going to do, because Pete Carroll, again, he's a winner wherever he goes.
Yeah, and that's a great point too, because like, Pete Carroll not being a flash in the pan hire, and you look at the age and you're like, okay, realistically, how long is he going to be around? But if he can instill this culture, and I feel like the culture in of itself is the biggest part about a rebuild within an organization. It's not always bringing in, the most talented players or spend all this money in free agency or trading up in the draft to get the number 1 overall pick. It's about, hey, what are we standing for as a culture? And, Pete Carroll may be older, but your general manager is not. Your general manager, John Spytek, is like 44 years old, his first time being a GM in this league. But if Pete Carroll can help establish that culture now, even if Pete Carroll was to retire as a Raiders head coach, then hopefully that culture continues during Spytek's tenure.
Yeah, I agree. And then not only that, but we don't know, maybe the, assistant coaches that come along the way, whether they're on the defense, offensive side, even special teams, I'll even throw out there. So who knows what the coordinator situation will look like when he's ready to step away? Because initially right now, the Raiders have him to a 4-year deal with 3 years guaranteed, a 4th year opt-out. And, again, depending on the coordinator situation, that could continue on to elevate. And who knows, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dan Quinn comes from the Pete Carroll tree. And look what he's doing over in the Commanders situation right now. So if we could have in the like kind of in the farm system, let's say, of a coach that just instills the same values that Pete Carroll has, and it's, again, like, Pete Carroll's not going to be around for 10 years in the NFL. I mean, he'll be coaching his 50th year of just football in general, from all spectrums of football, which is a long time, but that also is a lot of knowledge to parse on to whoever the person is to hand the keys over, so to speak. And so I'm curious to see, like, he has that to fill out his staff, and we'll see like what young coordinators or veteran coordinators he brings in that might be the ones that get the key at the end of the day. But also too, this would attract, big name coaches from other teams that maybe we didn't have an opportunity with before, players. So it's not just the people in the building. It goes beyond that, which is, I think, the bigger excitement too with what Pete Carroll brings.
Yeah, and maybe there is consistency too, because, you look at, since the Raiders moved to Las Vegas, or announced their move to Las Vegas in 2017, they've had a lot of people in the building. I mean, you go for coaches like Jack Del Rio, John Gruden, Rich Bisaccia counts, Josh McDaniels, Antonio Pierce. Now they have Pete Carroll, but, even general managers too. I mean, you've went through Reggie McKenzie, Mike Mayock, Dave Ziegler, Champ Kelly, Tom Telesco. There were weird reports a couple weeks ago, like, is Antonio Pierce coming back? Is Tom Telesco coming back? And now it looks like they have completely like clean slate. Let's get going. And a lot of people are wondering how much involved Tom Brady is, because Tom Brady's a minority owner of the Raiders. That's a very ironic oxymoron type of comment, especially when you talk about the Tuck rule.
Yep.
But as a minority owner of the Raiders, the organization he owned while he was in his playing career as well, I had to throw that dig in there.
Very true.
Do you think Tom Brady, with just seeing like, okay, now he has full control over, what guys are in the building. Do you think that's a big part of this culture shift?
I do, because even Pete Carroll referenced it in his press conference about how hands-on Tom Brady was throughout this process. And I think, too, not to disparage Mark Davis at all, because as those that remember when his dad passed away, obviously he inherited the team. He's been running ownership from it, and he helped be the catalyst for them moving to Vegas and all this stuff. Now, granted, Al Davis, the difference between him and his son is Al Davis was a former head coach. He was a general manager, so he had all this other football pedigree and played the game itself as well. Mark Davis, you can just probably argue, like, yes, he's been around football, but maybe he's not a football-minded player, owner, or anything like that. So he's really just going with what he is seeing, maybe that might be the best, whereas Al Davis, now granted, Al Davis on a player front maybe made some questionable draft choices throughout his ownership, which I will 100% acknowledge. But he also was someone that found John Gruden. There were some, like Art Shell was another coach that he found that had success within the Raiders organization. And that comes from Al Davis. Now, you get someone like Tom Brady, who's more football focused. John Spytek, who he has a relationship with, who could also help find talent. And Tampa Bay is no short of talent as of today, nor is Detroit, which is where Spytek was prior to Tampa Bay. So I think with having a football mind, someone that has been in an organization that won Super Bowls that we know of with the Patriots, you got someone with a GM that has had his fingerprints within the league for over 20 years. I think that is super prevalent. And with Pete Carroll, again, a Super Bowl winning head coach, somebody that's gotten his team to win, obviously, the conference as well. 10 years of making the playoffs with one team, like, you also pick up like how a team should run. And that's why I think with having Tom Brady as a minority owner, it changes, because now you have a football person that sees coaching in a different way, that sees players in a different way, that has this perspective of like, this is how we did it. And it doesn't mean it's the right way, but it's a different way of thinking. Whereas Mark Davis has either hired the flash in the pan, brought in maybe the name that like people know, but like doesn't have the qualifications for. Tom Brady, there's no doubt he has qualifications to be able to determine if, a player is good or a team is ran good, because he's seen it even from his time when he left New England to go to Tampa. So this, I just think, feels different, because now you have someone like Tom Brady, a football head, that is going to be more of a vocal, which I think is what Mark Davis needed. Is he needed someone that was like a football aficionado that was going to come in and make football decisions, where now Mark Davis can be an owner and he can default to Tom Brady, who can make football decisions that he feels grows the team.
And especially with Tom Brady still going throughout the league and commentating on Sundays, I feel like that gives him an edge, because he has an opportunity to study teams and, have interviews with players and, see what works around the rest of the league. So he's not just zero tunnel vision on the Las Vegas Raiders. He has different aspects of, perspective. I feel like that gives him an advantage. Like, it's almost Spygate in the minority owner role.
Well, here's what I think would end up happening is I think there's going to be a lot of backlash that Fox is receiving from having Tom Brady as the head NFL commentator after his first year, of course. And there may be pushback about like, okay, look, Tom Brady may be a commentator, but we do not want him to have access to this, which I think has been reported that he doesn't have access to team facilities. He can't interview any of the players or the coaches like what, let's say, Greg Olson used to do when they would pregame for the shows. But I do think that there will come ahead to where, like, okay, we have the head analyst that can't do 90% of the job because he's got a minority stake. And also, too, there's kind of an ethical dilemma. Should we let him keep calling games when he is the owner of a team? And, what kind of stuff does that do? And as far as game film, like, look, if he's going to watch game film that is given to like every team or every team can see, that's different. But, again, to go into the inner workings of a franchise, let's say, to see like what player they're going to draft ahead of time. Yeah, I think that's a big thing to like be weary about, where I can see Fox getting, the feedback of like, hey, look, we don't like Tom Brady here. And maybe Tom Brady buys out of his contract. Maybe he's just down to a different role as like a contributor on like the FS1 shows rather than an actual commentator. So I don't think him being a commentator and then the backlash of all that is going to continue. I think something's going to happen within the next season or two where he like withdraws from the role. His role changes overall just because of that whole, tag of like, okay, you're kind of cheating because you own a team, but you have access to all these teams because of your other career, which is kind of like a little bit of a sticky point.
It's a little bit of a sticky point, but I mean, it's Tom Brady. You have to get those sticky points in there.
Yeah.
But that's huge because, Pete Carroll coming in, John Spytek coming in, Tom Brady helping the organization. Like, I mean, for the Las Vegas Raiders, I mean, you look at that division with the Chargers, the Broncos, both making the playoffs this year, having really stout defenses. And then, of course, the Chiefs here in a couple weeks are going for the three-peat. Either Cody or myself won't be happy because we're going to have one of our division rivals hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. So it's not going to be the most adored Super Bowl in the history of us. We might be on opposing ends in terms of who we want to win.
Yeah.
But the Raiders, if you look at that list since 2017, not a lot of general managers and not a lot of head coaches have had time to turn things around. So hopefully there will be more time for Pete Carroll and, John Spytek, and, people realize like, hey, we had 3 playoff division teams in the AFC West. And we're also drafting 6 overall for a reason. Like, this is a rebuild. Let's give the culture time to establish. And the Raiders draft 6th here in the NFL draft this spring. Do you think they need to hit a home run with this pick? Do you have any idea of where they might go with this new regime, whether it's best player available or if they want to go ahead and make a splash?
I don't know if they want to make a splash. That's just because I think that's what Raider Nation would hope for. But if there's anything I've learned about us Raiders fans is you don't want to give us what we're asking for. You give us what's best for the team, because that's ultimately what this team needs. Is they need to make the best choice. Like, for example, last season when we drafted Brock Bowers, obviously a lot of Raider fans were up in arms because, we got another tight end in the first round. And here we were, Raider Nation was upset until you see him play. And, by the way, he just seems to be one of the best tight ends that has kind of stepped on the field, and we just so happen to have him on the team. So now there's a lot of optimism around it. But when we drafted him, there wasn't. And I think that's natural with all fans. We want to hit a home run on every single pick, but statistically, that just doesn't work. But what Spytek and Carroll will do is I think that they will go for the player that is probably best for the moment, like what they can get in terms of value. Does that mean they're going to get maybe the running back out of Boise State at number 6? Maybe. Does that mean maybe they're going to go defense at number 6? Possibly. Could they trade up? Yeah, I can see a scenario. Will they trade down to get more picks? I also can see a scenario where that happens, because you do have a lot of players that you need to figure out what you're going to do with, but you also need to bring in a younger roster, as what we talked about, as you're building that culture, that as Pete Carroll is turning it over, you got these players that have been in there that kind of know their role now in their system. And we'll see. My concern, though, is that Pete Carroll, if this 3 years is a legit thing, it's not a lot of time to turn around, because our last several head coaches, even the ones that lasted more than one season, after 3 seasons are kind of gone. So that turnover is a little high. So we'll see. And in all fairness, like, the next couple of drafts are pretty important to the fact of like what Pete Carroll wants to do with this team, or at least Spytek or Tom Brady or whoever. They are kind of important. But I would say for our 6th pick, we're probably going to need a player that is effective, but a home run, that's hard. That's going to be saying like we need to trade up to like the number 2 pick to get Sanders or Travis Hunter. Like, we're going to have to do one of those picks. And I just don't see the Raiders wanting to do that. That seems too flashy to me.
Yeah, especially if you had to give up all this capital to go draft a player like that. As great as Travis Hunter is going to be in the league, we'll see where he ends up. And we'll be covering a lot of the draft stuff as well. Aaron Schneider, who was on Out of Pocket yesterday, he's starting to turn his gridiron address a little more into some NFL draft preview. He studies the draft all along. Like, he wanted CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. We talked about that a couple of years ago. So he's going to do really good stuff and good material with the draft on his Gridiron Address show on Sunday. So you guys want to make sure you're subscribed to Boom Broadcasting for that. And if you guys are Raiders fans, Cody and Drew, like, they do great stuff on Drew Code Sports Talk, not only covering the Raiders because they're Raiders guys, but in addition, they cover the rest of the NFL. I've been on for a 3-peat on Drew Code Sports Talk, and I'm sure he's hoping that the Chiefs don't 3-peat in the same way. No. But that was something I was super excited about, and I'm excited about this too. So, guys, again, we usually do top quarter rankings, which if you guys haven't been aware of, it's me ranking 8 to 1 NFL teams, throughout the season. Of course, now we're at the point where we only have 2. the Chiefs and the Eagles, and be kind of pointless if I rank them, because you guys know I would still have the Chiefs number one, like I've had the entire season, just FYI. Now we're going to do some new stuff. And one thing I wanted to experiment with is a draft. Now, Cody had the privilege to go to a Lakers Warriors game here recently, and we were talking like, dude, that is so cool. You got to see this player, this player, this player. And here, right before Thanksgiving, a couple months ago, I got to go see the Miami Heat in Charlotte, which is apparently going to be the final time I see Jimmy Butler in a Miami Heat uniform. And I was so excited way back when, because I'm like, man, Jimmy. And I was so close. I was close enough to where, I tried to get him to acknowledge me, but that's not the case anymore. And so me and him were having a conversation about players we'd love to see and everything. So I got to thinking, let's have Cody on the show and let's do a tiny little draft. Now, this draft is going to be us drafting current players, whether in the NBA or in college basketball, because they'll eventually be in the NBA if they're good enough, that we want to see in person. Now, the caveat to this is these are must-see players that I haven't seen that I'm drafting. Cody hasn't seen that he's drafting. And so, in all intents and purposes, if Cody really wants to see Jimmy Butler, then he can draft him, and I won't be able to draft Jimmy Butler. / I really don't want to now because of all the trash that's been going on, and definitely suspended by the team. Who knows if here in the next couple hours when this airs for you guys on Boom Broadcasting, if he's been traded. If so, we'll cover that on Out of Pocket this Thursday. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot more drama going on with Jimmy Butler. So these are the rules. We're drafting current players, NBA or college, that we have not seen in person. And then we're going to put this on our social media and have you guys vote who has the better list. And you can spell it out, Michael, when you comment who has the better list. But to be nice,
I think you misspelled Cody.
Oh, I didn't. I'm very good at spelling. I write articles, fansfirstsports.com, if you guys want to check it out.
Very good ones, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And for your kind words right there, I'll even let you have the first pick in this NBA player draft.
Man, okay, you're very, very generous. I will say, though, this is tough because, I'm sure other teams like Miami Heat would love to also have Jimmy Butler on their list, but of course he's just completely ignoring them, which warrants a suspension. So that's a little touchy subject. But man, I have a bunch of names here, but I think one player that kind of excites me, and also two, is a young player that is kind of coming up in the league that is making almost every game he goes to a must-see. And I think if I don't draft this one, it would be pretty obvious of why I shouldn't watch basketball anymore. And that's Victor Wembanyama. I think I'm going to draft him number one. He's must-see. Somebody right now in their sophomore year that is kind of jockeying to be like one of the MVPs of the league and is really making the Spurs relevant. How do you not want to see Victor Wembanyama? So give me Victor.
Well, he just took my number one pick, so I'm automatically regretting giving him the number one pick. Yeah, Wembanyama would be, why would you not? He's also playing with Chris Paul right now, which makes it a lot better. You got Chris Paul, Victor Wembanyama. He's astonishing. He's literally a unicorn.
Yeah.
So that was a solid pick right there, Cody. But for me, if you're going to take Wembanyama away from me after I was so generous, I'm going to go with a guy who isn't the flashiest. He doesn't even look like a basketball player half the time. But for some reason, he just can put the ball exactly where he needs to do it. He can grab the rebounds. He can score the points. And he's a little obnoxious. Let's be honest. And if he's not obnoxious, his brothers are. So if his brothers are in attendance, this is even better. I would have to go Nikola Jokic.
That's a great one.
This dude, he's literally defied the odds when it comes to being an NBA player, but also an NBA MVP. Like Nikola Jokic, he get this. How many MVPs this guy has? He only has 3. And
Only.
I feel like he got robbed that one year. Joel Embiid got it.
Right.
So he should be a 4-time MVP. He's in that LeBron category of like, okay, you could give it to him any year that you want. But yeah, I'm going to take Nikola Jokic since you were mean enough to take Victor Wembanyama away from me. And that's okay because I'll let you have the next pick right here.
Okay, great. Well, first off, Nikola Jokic is a great pick because he plays basketball like it's an inconvenience to him. Like, I got to get somewhere, you guys. I've got to shift right now, and I got to get going. Nikola Jokic just treats basketball like a 9-to-5, and it's kind of the most hilarious thing I see. My second pick, though, is somebody that I think is just as electric as Steph Curry, who I can't pick because I've seen him already. He's got the shooting. He's got the handling. I'm going to go with Kyrie Irving, probably one of the most electric ball handlers that we've seen in the NBA. Is exciting, could stop on a dime, just electrifying of a player. He would be somebody that I would love to see in a live NBA game. And if I'm being honest, when I saw the Warriors and the Lakers game, it was faster than TV. And I can just see right now, Kyrie Irving would be a blur if seeing him in person. So give me Kyrie.
You're taking Kyrie. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a big Duke guy.
Yeah.
I just if there's one Duke player that I just can't claim, it's Kyrie Irving. I mean, I would go and pay really good money to see Uncle Drew play basketball.
Sure.
But when it comes to Kyrie, like, I'm not shoveling all that money out for an NBA game. You know, the Mavs came to Charlotte, you know, a local team, and I'd be like, okay, I get to see Kyrie because he might like just skip out in the game because who knows, the earth is flat and he's taking Earth Day off. Like there would be just one of these weird excuses
Sure.
to why he couldn't play. But I'm not going to take Kyrie Irving, A, because you took him, and B, I would much rather see his teammate who also can put out a triple-double. I'm going to go ahead and take Luka Doncic.
That's a great one.
That guy. Another international player who just came in, and they always try to pin the Trae Young, Luka Doncic trade as one of the more even trades in NBA history, but it's really not. I mean, Atlanta has kind of been in purgatory over the last several years. Luka Doncic has helped wheel the Mavericks to the NBA Finals this past year against the Boston Celtics. Luka Doncic, another guy who can just put up a triple-double, and if he's hot, he can drop 50, 60 points, and I would just love to see that offensive star power from Luka Doncic.
It's a fantastic one. And I would also argue, too, we probably haven't even seen the best Luka yet. I think he's still not even hit the middle of his prime yet. He's like entering in that tier, but he's still got another level to hit, I think. That's a great one. You know what? Michael, you're breaking my heart because I've literally been holding off on this player for you because I know the school you root for, you referenced Duke. And I've been holding this player, hoping that you were just going to pick him because I was trying to save face. But you're going to make me do it. I'm going with Cooper Flagg as a player that I'd want to see live. Yes, I gave you 2 picks to do it, sir. So I'm going to say Cooper Flagg. He's obviously going to probably be the number 1 pick in the NBA draft upcoming, having a very phenomenal freshman year, averaging almost 20 points a game. And it seems like now the game is coming to him a lot slower. So now he's able to dominate in his recent games. Cooper Flagg is looking like a must-see player. I don't even know what team he will be on, but it'll be exciting to see. So give me Cooper.
Are you for real right now? Dude, that's terrible. Why would you do that to me?
I gave you 2 picks. I thought he'd be your first pick.
Well, okay, so I was like, okay, we're talking, and you know, you take out Victor Wembanyama, and I'm like, okay, that was number 1, and then I'm like, okay, well, I know he'll go after Jokic next, so let me just go ahead and snag Nikola Jokic, because you admittedly pay more attention to the NBA than college, and
yeah.
Then you took Kyrie, and I'm like, well, man, I can't let Luka Doncic slide. I thought I didn't know who you were taking third pick, but I didn't expect you to take Cooper Flagg away from me. Me and my dad want to go see him so bad.
Well, here's the thing. Here's how prevalent he is right now. I don't watch college basketball that much, but I know who Cooper Flagg is. That's why he's must see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to see I would love to see Cooper Flag in person, but you took that privilege away from me, at least in the mock draft of must see NBA players, which makes things super tough for me when it comes to picking a player, because I genuinely thought I had Cooper Flag in the bag. That rhymes, by the way. For a guy, I'm gonna go ahead and take somebody who just plays with a lot of swagger. I mean, he has been touted as, maybe the modern day Dwayne Wade, in some aspects. And I was like, you know what? With the run that he went on in the Western Conference playoffs last year, I could see it. I can see it. He's just playing with, either Dwayne Wade or Michael Jordan-esque qualities. I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Edwards. He is doing a really great job of, expanding his game to where he's not only a slasher, but he's one of the better three-point shooters now in the NBA. I can't believe where we're going to see Anthony Edwards, 2-3 years from now. Dude is only 23 years old.
That's crazy.
To think where he'll be at in his playing years of 25 or 26 years old, I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Edwards.
That's a great pick. And I was actually afraid if I took Cooper Flag, Anthony was going to be gone, because I was hoping that Anthony would linger around. So that's a great recovery on your end, sir. So, okay, this is what
maybe we'll do a Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers kind of trade on draft.
We might have to swap. Okay, here's what makes it difficult, because I have players on here that are successful, that are fun, that I want to see, but I have players that are flashy. Now, maybe they're not on the most successful team, but they'd be fun to watch live. And this is what makes it tough, because I've got some hometown names in here too, but do I want to go with my heart or do I want to go with my head? And this is what makes it difficult. Okay, fourth pick. So I'm going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo as my fourth pick. I think he'd be fun. Arguably one of the more dominant players we've seen since Shaquille O'Neal. Obviously not as powerful in terms of size, but can get to the basket anytime he wants, can dominate when needed, averages almost 30 and 15 almost every single night. So every night he's on the floor, he's going to put on a show. So I'll take the Greek Freak.
Ooh, okay. That was solid. I actually prepped, for the show, and I had a list of about 10 players to where I'm like, okay, I'll have somebody. I actually didn't have Giannis on mine.
Okay.
And, not to say he's not a great player. I'm not dissing your pick at all, but man, he's brought me so much pain as a Miami Heat fan.
That makes sense.
I know if I watched him, it would be hard, because I almost want to root for him, but at the same time, I'm just despising him. So he's probably a player I would pay not to see. I'd pay to let him sit on the bench for a day, and I'd probably pay his fine if I had the chance to do that. This is getting tough, because we're at the point to where I have 2 picks left. I could, man, I'm between 2 or 3 players right now that you haven't taken. I'm trying to save my 5th pick for, a safer bet for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm a Duke guy. I haven't taken a Duke guy because you took 2 of them already. I've taken Nikola Jokic. I've taken Luka Doncic. I've taken Anthony Edwards. I'm going to go ahead and take the guy who I kind of secretly want to root for, but with his rivalry with the Miami Heat right now, I just can't. But if I saw him playing the Charlotte Hornets, I'd probably buy a Jason Tatum jersey and enough. Let me get number 0, Jason Tatum himself, because the dude is entering his prime right now. Maybe Deuce is there at the game as well. And speaking of crazy, he is 26 years old.
Yeah, that's.
These NBA players are hitting their prime before they turn 25. And the fact that he is an NBA champion, he's a former Duke Blue Devil. He's just incredible. The most points in a Game 7 ever with 51 points. The most assists in a finals debut with 13. most playoff points by a player before they turn 27. Now, granted, you can, credit like, okay, well, Michael Jordan spent 3 years in college. LeBron James, right
No
there.
college. Mm-hmm.
No college. Like Jason Tatum has more points than LeBron before they turn 27. So I'd be remiss without taking Jason Tatum. By the way, before we announce our 5th and final pick in this draft, I did want to mention and say appreciation to you guys for watching and appreciation for Cody to hopping on, moving stuff around his schedule. If you want to see one of these NBA players in a game, Cody and Drew Code Sports Talk actually have a SeatGeek code that I'm going to drop right here in the banner, to where if you want to see one of these players, you can get $20 off your first order on SeatGeek by using that code on the bottom, Drew Code. And then they also have a great YouTube channel. I've been on their show 3 times so far, and hopefully we'll get Drew in one of our collabs. We keep, talking about that. The stars will align eventually, but
eventually.
As an appreciation for you guys listening, we want to make sure this is as affordable as it's possible. Get $20 off your first order on SeatGeek by using that code, Drew Code. And we appreciate Cody being on, even though he took some of my guys. But Cody, who is your final pick?
Well, thank you so much for teeing up the SeatGeek. Truthfully, great partners, and I highly recommend it. So definitely, as what Michael said, save your guys self some money and go get SeatGeek tickets to see these guys. I'm going to walk through my process for my 5th pick. So, of course, when I mentioned hometown players, we got Jalen Green and Paul George, both from Fresno. So those two in my head are like, okay, I got to pick them for the homer factor. But then I was like, you know what? I've seen one of them at least in action already, so already off the table. LaMelo Ball, even though they play for a terrible team, would be fun to watch. I don't want to see LaMelo Ball, though. I think I want something more competitive. Then I was thinking either Jokic's teammate, Russell Westbrook, which would be a really fun watch. However, is he somebody that would keep up in terms of like his gameplay? Is he going to keep playing this well when I see him? So made me wonder. Donovan Mitchell on the Cavs, I thought would be a great option as well. Still didn't satisfy me. I'm going to land on one of the all-time great scorers that is in the game still today, even though he's on a team that's kind of washing away to shore right now, and they really need someone like Jimmy Butler to come and save them. I'm going to go with Kevin Durant. I think, truthfully, being able to witness somebody that is one of the best players in not only the game, but in the history of the game play is a unique experience. Because as what Michael said, I've got to see Steph, I've got to see LeBron, I've got to see AD. There's something about seeing all-time great players play that is just different than seeing all-stars play, is what I'll say. And I think, Michael, you'll have to agree to me on that one. As far as like what you've seen on other sports games that you might have gone to, there's just levels to this in terms of what you see. Kevin Durant, to me, looks like a must-see player just because of his greatness and what he's done and what he continues to do at a high level. Even though the team doesn't seem very competitive, Kevin Durant always is. So I'll take KD.
That's a solid pick. That is a solid pick, my friend. Again, if he decides to play when you go and shovel out that money to see him, you see how I'm like trying to convince the viewers, like, hey, side with Michael right here. I'm just saying, I'm picking guys who don't usually sit when you shovel out the money. But you have an impressive team: Victor Wembanyama, Kyrie Irving. I still hate that you picked Cooper Flagg, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Kevin Durant.
I've got a very tall team, I'll say.
So you obviously didn't have all those guys that you had put on your list of potential people you could have picked. Who were some others you wanted to pick on your 5?
So I did. So the names that I led off with is what I did right. So I did want to see Jalen. Obviously, what you picked, I did want to see, because like we pretty much almost had the same list, just in a different order. So like Jason Tatum was on the top of my list. He would have been probably my 4th pick had you not taken him. Nikola Jokic, I think I just want to see how he plays in person. Luka, of course, I think he's going to be a fantastic watch. I actually haven't seen Jimmy Butler in person, even though I've seen the Miami Heat because he was out. I'd like to see Jimmy. I'd like to see if he is as talented as the attitude professes, So And then Donovan Mitchell, I think, is a very good player that needs to have people watching him. I think Jalen Green of the Houston Rockets is a phenomenal athlete that not only can shoot, but can also get up. So you never know what big game dunks are coming. So I think those are a bunch of young players, in fact, that are exciting to watch and are must see, because there's going to be a generation that has to take the reins from Stephen Curry, from LeBron James. And I think our list, and especially like Anthony Edwards, is such a great player, so electric to watch. I think that's another player that is someone that everyone needs to just find a way to go and see.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty solid right there. And I did mention you took some people I wanted to see. Cooper Flagg, obviously he's a sensation. I want to see him while he's still at Duke. That is a high priority. Don't know if that'll work out or not. And there's some people I want to take with the 5th pick, but I'm not going to take Donovan Mitchell, as exciting as he is. I mean, I could have subbed in Donovan Mitchell for Anthony Edwards, so on and so forth. But I think Anthony Edwards just has a lot more potential at this point. Donovan Mitchell, you kind of know what you're going to get. Another one is MVP candidate Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Oh, fantastic.
Would be a really good one.
Yeah.
I think he would be so fun to watch, especially with that young OKC team. And then another one, I was like, I want to pick him. Again, as a Duke guy, I would love to see Zion Williamson in person, because if he's playing, he's the best player on the court. It's just he doesn't play, and that's a big deal. That's the big deal. And you would find out literally, like, you could purchase your tickets 2 hours before tip off, and you'd find out an hour and 58 minutes before tip off that he's not playing. Like, that would be the case.
Because he's still stuck at the Wendy's drive-thru waiting for his order. That'd be why he couldn't make the plane.
It would be tough. I have a history of people who don't like to show up for team plane rides, but I digress. I purposefully kept this person at number 5 because I knew with the rules, you weren't going to be eligible to take this person.
You got it.
Now, I don't want to go see LeBron James. It would be cool to see, like, LeBron, just to say you've seen LeBron play. Or Anthony Davis, he is elite in his own right, again, if he plays. But, dude, this guy redefined a generation. He literally changed YMCA basketball. And you talk about my list being younger guys. You have several years to see them. This guy, he might only be in the league, another 2 years maybe. And especially playing at a high level. If you're taking Kevin Durant at the end of his career, I'm going to go ahead and take Stephen Curry at the end of his. I mean, I would love to see a logo 3. He just has that knack about him. Like, Stephen Curry, like, really, really is our generation's player. And the fact that you could, like, Cody, I am jealous. When you told me you were going to that game, I'm like, he's going to be able to say he's seen Steph Curry in person, and that would be a dream for me. So while he is like number 5 on my list, I could have probably taken him number 1. So I basically have 2 number 1 overall picks if you guys want to vote for mine.
That's a fantastic pull. I forgot all about the caveat of the rule, and here I was teasing you about Jimmy Butler, and you pulled a great shot with Steph Curry. So that was a good one. I don't know if your team,
it was a 3 from deep.
That was a good 3 from deep. Jason would be happy. Jason would be proud.
Yep. Oh, dude, that is a huge list. We'll put this on social media over the course of the next 24 hours before Thursday's Out of Pocket show, to where you guys can vote on either Cody's team that he drafted or my team that we drafted. Also, drop in the comments. Hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever have you. Tell us what you think about, this new segment that we did on Out of Pocket. It's very different than what we usually do. Usually it's more news oriented, or we're doing a top quarter rankings list. We don't really usually do these types of games, but I had fun, beating Cody, and I can't wait for you guys to vote here in the next couple of days and, make that win official. But yeah, these were 2 solid teams. And Cody, thank you so much for, allowing us to do this. And again, I'm going to flash the code here on the bottom. If you guys want Get $20 off your first order on SeatGeek by supporting Drew Code Sports Talk using that code, and go get to see one of these 10 players in person.
That'll be super fun. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And, I know as a Cowboys fan, you had a rough week, so you needed a little bit of an outlet. I'm glad I can give you some laughs. Sorry about Cooper Flagg, but I mean, again, you got Steph Curry, so I think it all comes out in the wash anyways. But thank you for the invite. And everybody, again, please follow Michael. Of course, this isn't my channel, but I highly encourage follow Boom, follow Michael, follow Out of Pocket, all the guys, super fun. Continue to support them, not only me, but them as well, because they're doing some fun things. And so love to hear from Michael and anytime he invites me on. So appreciate you, dude.
Hey, I appreciate you so much. You guys subscribe to both our YouTube channels. I mentioned 3 from Deep is now 3 times a week. And so if you guys see that right there, Jason will be dropping his show. He does Mondays at noon. Now he does Wednesdays and Saturdays at noon as well. So be expectant that on Wednesday at noon. I dropped Dad and the Boys, the video version, earlier this afternoon. The audio version was posted last night on Fans First Sports Network through their Spotify and Apple outlets of Star Studded Cowboys Network. So you guys can hear my opinion on Brian Schottenheimer, that press conference, similar to what we did with Pete Carroll with Cody as the Raiders guy. But guys, that is all we have for you on Out Pocket today with Michael Davis on Boom Broadcasting. We appreciate you guys watching this, and we'll be back live hopefully on Thursday, but you will have a Thursday show, so don't worry about that. But guys, appreciate you guys. For myself and Cody, this has been Out Pocket, and we'll catch you guys back here on Thursday.
Well, that's it. I really hope you enjoyed it. We had a ball making it. Thank you.